Hey friends, welcome to the ZiaWoolz StudioBuzz podcast episode 44. My name is Doc and I live in beautiful New Mexico in the desert in Albuquerque, and this is also where I dye and I get a lot of inspiration for my yarns, ZiaWoolz. Where to start? Of course, with my finished object. I finished my fog cutter by ZiaWoolz, and here it is in all its glory. Back is slightly longer than the front, and I love it. This was really a rough one. I made several mistakes when I was working on this. The last one actually, just when I was figuring out the shaping of the front neckline, I ended up having 2 rows too many and I had to rip back and redo. I mean, not really a big deal, but you want to say, really, did I have to do that? That's 20 minutes, half an hour of my knitting time, maybe more like 20. It wasn't too bad, but it was just annoying, one of those things. This sweater, and I've talked about this in the previous episodes several times. I have made this with hand spun yarn. The fiber came from a local farm here in New Mexico. One of the last large sheep farms. They have Rambouillet sheep, lots of them in the east of the state. I went there to pick up the fiber and I sent it out and had it processed, and then I dyed it in this. I wanted a pale blue variation. I didn't want just white, so I love how this turned out. I had to dye an extra skein in the end because I was not sure if my yarn was enough for the whole sweater, and I did that. And my problem initially was initially I had enough fibers, but then don't ask me why, but I ended up blending one of the braids on the drum carder, which of course created a more solid pale blue, and I could have put that into the sleeves, but I didn't really want to. So I thought, let's see if I can recreate the blue that I used here, and it turned out good. I like it. What else can I tell you? Yeah, so I have some leftovers. Pardon. I don't need to get that out, I think. Yep. One of them is the blended skein, and I have a tiny bit from the front part of the body, and what I recreated and then spun is the full skein went into the sleeves, and I used 4.5 millimeter needles. And the way I did this, that's maybe interesting if you like this sweater. The way ZiaWoolz wrote the pattern is for you to knit the sleeves separately and then put them in. I didn't want to do that, So what I did instead was I closed my shoulder seams then I picked up the stitches for the sleeves and I figured out where I want to get with my stitch count in how many rows. So I kind of assembled this a little bit with like little pinchy things and measured the length of sleeves that I want. And so I came up with a decrease rate of every 10th row. I decreased by 2 stitches, and that I actually love how it fits me. Initially I wanted to get a little bit tighter, but I'm glad I didn't. I changed it. Yeah, because you don't want it too tight. It's a warm sweater. It's not like a fingering weight where you don't mind, I would think. Yeah, this is good. I'm very happy with how it turned out. I was worried a little bit about the length. I feel like I even made it an inch longer than she says in the pattern. And can you see, especially the front. So I pulled quite a bit when I blocked it. And it's, can you see where it ends? Yeah. Reverse stockinette. Oh yes, but on the sleeves I did my decreases, of course, on the knit side, on the inside. Yeah, that is my fog cutter. What else? I worked some on the other older project out of hand spun yarn, and that is the Hansel Hap by Gudrun Johnston. I've made this before, but this time it had to be special, and I really wanted it to be made with hand spun yarn because I have a hap stretcher now, so it has to be special yarn to be worthy the hap stretcher. And this is where I am. I wasn't quite there at the tip. In the meantime, I picked up all the stitches on the edge. Oh, that's funny. Why is there a dark line? Not sure. What is that? So I picked up all the stitches around the edge, and I can actually go now with those, with the edge. That's going to be like still quite a bit of knitting, but I'm starting off with the gray with the Shetland fibers, and then I will Shetland yarn, and then I will have different yarns with beautiful colors that I'm going to be using here as well. I didn't bring those now because I have a bunch of kind of little skeins of 1 or 2 ounces that I plan to use, and I will show you when I'm ready to get going on those, with those. Hansel Hap by Gudrun Johnston. The other thing I worked on is this beauty. I had just barely started last time. It's the Luz, a pattern by Alyssa Latucci, who is a local fiber friend. I believe she lives in Santa Fe. Very talented designer. The hat is actually named after a trail that goes up our beautiful Sandia Mountains here. So I am using a yarn that I specifically dyed in a bright, speckly, neonish, what's the word? neon-y. Doesn't sound right, but I make up words from time to time, so forgive me. So that's my color. And I think last time I showed you I had just cast on and knitted 2 rounds, something like that. But this time I am further along. Check it out. It's so beautiful. I love it. I have no idea if Alyssa watches podcasts and if she watches mine, but maybe you, because she would see right away, hey, what did you do? This way. Something is not quite right here. I was ready to start the final decreases for the top of the hat when I realized that instead of starting with chart number 1, I started with chart number 2. I don't know why. I don't know how that happened. I have no idea. So, and this is also the reason why I did not finish the hat, because I could have easily finished it in the meantime. I am missing, and I can look it up, probably how many rounds. I hope this is not too loud. Man, that is 13 rounds. Dang, that's a lot. Yeah, the thing is, I was worried. I thought, well, if I go on like this, the hat may end here, you know, not cover my head. And because, as you can see, it fits her snug. I mean, it's a fitted, not slouchy hat. But then, you know, I went up a needle size or a quarter needle size, and I think I may be good after all. Look at this. It's not too much. Okay, I'm gonna try to show you. I hope you can see, because I can certainly not. Hair. Well, what can I say? I put it in timeout, but then I decided, and then to make a decision, essentially, to figure out, am I going to frog it, or am I going to go, or am I just going to finish it the way it is? And I think that's actually what I'm going to do, because I had gone up a little bit in the required, in the needle size. I think I may actually be good. Maybe that's really the reason why it may be okay. I mean, I love also what Alyssa did when she closes up here. Look at that. Oh my goodness. That's essentially a star. It's so pretty. Love that. Yeah. And then, I mean, if it really does not fit right, then I'm just going to make another one in a different, I tie up some yarn and make the same one again. I really love the yarn that I picked. It's ZiaWoolz Chama, which is a sport. It's an 8-ply cabled yarn, which is really very well suited for something like this, where you can see you have a lot of texture and you want a nice stitch definition, and that does the trick. You're going to say, what is that thing dangling there? I showed this before. This is a an elastic that I sewed together, and this is how I keep my DPNs. I already have a little, what are they called? One of those little things on it so I can attach it to my knitting or my project bag. And when I'm finished, so I don't lose it. That's the whole point. So I can put my DPNs, when I'm done, I'm going to stick them in there, and then they live in a sheep-shaped mug type of thing. And because they have the needle size for millimeters, I can easily grab the right set as I need it. Okay, wish me luck that this fits me. If not, there will be another one. And I mean, I love the pattern. This was really a beautiful pattern. And no, I mean, with the chart, it's so easy to do. But if it's not high enough with the mistake that I made, then it would have to be really for a person with a quite a bit smaller head. Well, I don't know, quite a bit, but definitely someone with a smaller head. And but that would not be my daughter or any of my nieces, because it's just too bright. Excuse me. It lives in my Doris sheet bag still. What else? I am working on mittens, fingerless mittens, I should say, for the High Desert Studio Tour. Next weekend. Today is Friday. Maybe by the time you see this, or it's up on YouTube, maybe Saturday. So in a week, from 10 to 5, there will be the High Desert Studio Tour where I'm participating, and you can come and visit our home and see what I've been up to, and look for yarn, and look at fingerless mitts, and have a cookie, have some hot cider, and yes, there will also be Laura, who's a rug hooker, who always makes beautiful things like gift items. And for the first time, I'm going to have Southwest Sunflower Pottery. I may completely butcher her name now, but it's she's a potter, Sarah, who makes very Southwest themed things, and I'm thrilled that she's going to join me for the first time. Both of these are going to be in my house, but then you can visit different houses up kind of close in the area, which is always fun. So I usually I've stopped making knitted things for sale, but for the studio tour, I'm always kind of reviving that. And in this case, I am making fingerless mitts galore. I'm using my Duke City Mitts pattern that I published for free on Ravelry last winter, and was my little Christmas gift to the community. And it's just a versatile pattern because you can use it with many different yarn weights, and which is of course great when you use hand spun, which I do a lot. Pair 1, hand spun. Usually the hand spun I use is also hand dyed by me. This is not dyed by me, and it's also not only hand spun, but this is a fun pair. I've combined a hand spun yarn, a thinner one with a fun commercial yarn that changes color. It's really a pair that I love so much. Love it. Alpaca, hand spun. The ends, well, not quite. Let's not talk about that, right? This would be a pair more for a guy, a little bit bigger, dark colors. It's a little more of a rustic yarn, hand spun also. I'm wondering if it's Lincoln or something. Could be just a different, or local churro sheep, not sure. And I love these, but they're ever so slightly too small for me. I mean, I can put them on, but still not, just tad too small for me. I love the rust in combination with the blue. And because I'm not as bad as it looks, I have already completely finished 2 pairs. And this one is already pretty much sold. I shouldn't say sold because I'm hoping that the neighbor friend who wants them will agree to an art swap because she's a potter and she makes beautiful things. So I hope I'm gonna get to see her stuff, hopefully before the studio tour, before she sells out, and then I'm gonna bring her these. She requested them. She saw them on Instagram and loved them so much. For these, I've used 2 yarns held together. One of them being this merino with a bit of an alpaca and I think some kind of a polyester fiber in it also. Very fuzzy, super soft. And I held it together with the same commercial yarn that I used in another pair with the hand spun. And I have to say that for this pair, the needles I used were 5.5 millimeters. I got a very dense fabric, and that was a little bit too much for my hands. It's interesting. I don't mind making a lot of these, but when I don't have the perfect needle size, it's hard on that. It can be hard on the hands. So I had to take a break, but now I'm on it again. I'll show you what I'm doing right now. Because I make such a pretty pair. I started such a pretty pair. One of them is finished already. I love these. Holding 2 yarns together again. And this is how the second one looks like. Very different. Love it. Oops, where's the other one? Oh, look. That was so funny because this morning I was talking to my mom, and we usually FaceTime. And she knew I was going to go run after we talked. So at some point she's like, okay, I'm going to let you go. I know you want to do your run. Just go, bye-bye. And then I said, no, I want to knit. I want to get to the orange. So I had to do the orange. And then I knitted. When I cooled down, I did a few more rounds because then I wanted to get to the pink. And now I'm going to want to get to the turquoise. Look at that. The yarn I'm using it with looks like this. And I am missing the label. However, I am thinking it's probably the same one. I called it Gazpacho when I recorded the German one. It's the Gazpacho yarn. Oh my goodness. Yes. And I have a whole other large ball of this singles woolly yarn, which I'm already planning the next pair. And now you see why I don't weave in the ends, because I'm already thinking about the next pair and I'm thinking, oh, wouldn't that be great? Then I want to cast on right away, and that's what I usually do. I don't weave in my ends. I have, yeah, and here's another one that I am planning to work with. That was some stash yarn where it was a ball of yarn and I had some residue pinkish dye where I thought, oh, I'm not going to waste that. I wound this into a skein and threw it in the residue pinkish dye and put a few speckles on. They're kind of hard to see. I think they're going to show a lot more. When I actually knit with this. So hopefully I'm going to get to this, because I also have a whole big stack of hand spun that I'm going to get to later, which I want to use for fingerless mitts also. So that's the Duke City Mitts, fingerless mitts. But then, what's next? I'm so excited. You know, as a dyer, it doesn't always just come to you, this Christmas colorway. Last year I had a great one, the little girl's gingerbread house, and this year for Halloween I had no Halloween colorway, but that was also related to the fact that I was on a vacation in September. But Christmas, you just don't know, because you can't force those creative juices, you know? So when I came up with this, I just, boom, went on with it and started dyeing several of this colorway that I had the idea for and was so excited about. And I am talking about this one, which I have named Candy Canes and Icicles. Why did I want to say candy corn? Because I just talked about Halloween, I think. Of course, this has nothing to do with candy corn. Candy Canes and Icicles. Love, love, love. And then talk about creative juices that can't be forced. But I mean, you know, I've been doing the beekeeper colorways for quite some time. And this is the first year that I got inspired to make a beekeeper colorway. And I love how this one turned out. So much. I started knitting with candy canes and icicles before I came up with this, And I'm actually glad, because I would have had the hardest time to pick which one to work with first. I mean, not that I'm gonna make 2 Christmas socks before Christmas, but then again, who knows? I haven't finished the Christmas socks that I started with the yarn the Christmas yarn that I bought in Las Vegas last year. I haven't done those, haven't finished them. But this one, actually, I'm almost as far along as I am with that other yarn that I just mentioned. And I am so excited. Oh, I love it so much. And again here, in case you wonder, this is my little elastic thing for my TPNs in 2.5 needle size. I am very random with the way I knit the leg of the socks. For these, I'm using my Trailblazer yarn, which is a Blueface Leicester BFL sock yarn that I haven't used for myself yet. In fact, I've only added it to the shop as a test. I have to see how much you all are interested in it, and I want to try it. That's why I thought I'm going to make these, and I'm going to actually wear the socks and see how they wear, and if I really want to carry it in the long run, or if I want to just do a special edition. Yes, super happy about this. And I did 22 rounds of a 2x2 ribbing. I cast on 4 times 16 stitches as a total, and then I did another 17 rounds before I started my heel flap and a gusset, as I always do. That's how I learned from my grandma. And I'm sure these are going to keep growing quickly. Yeah, here's the Trailblazer label. So those were my Christmas socks, and in that context, I want to mention that all of a sudden it came to me, hey, I love these Christmas socks so much. I want to have a Christmas sock cal. I'm going to put in the hashtag that I decided on right here, and hopefully you all want to join me for that. You may use the socks you started last Christmas and that you never finished. You may start if they're Christmas socks, and I don't mind if you've started them already. That's what I mean to say. And you can use my yarn, or you can use any other yarn that you feel like is a Christmas yarn. You can say, hey, green is like the Christmas tree. You can say purple is like my favorite ornament, or you can say, hey, this is multi-speckled, all the colors, and it reminds me of my Christmas, the lights on my Christmas tree. Whatever you feel is right. And I hate to tease you, but I do have one more Christmas colorway, which is still dripping wet, and which I will show you next time. Hopefully I'm not going to forget that, but that one is called Winter Wonderland. It's not per se Christmas, but it's a little more muted, and it would be very much suitable for a more patterned sock. And the way I was thinking we're going to do that is we're going to please join the Ravelry group, the ZiaWoolz group. And then I'm going to open a thread there, and you just, whenever, either you post the yarn before you start, or definitely post a picture of your finished socks in the group or link to it. use the hashtag that I'm thinking it's ZiaWoolz Christmas Cal 2019, probably. And use the hashtag on Instagram, and you can use it on Ravelry too, but please, in the group thread, I need to see the finished pictures, so it doesn't get too crazy for me to figure out, to get all the participants and all the socks. And I would, the way I thought, you can use any dyer's yarn, but if you use a ZiaWoolz yarn, you get 2 entries for the finished socks. The Cal will end on December 12th. I thought because maybe some people may only cast on Christmas, they like to cast on Christmas, and then you still have time to finish your pair of socks. And some people actually finish a pair of socks in a week. Not this woman here. Okay, I'm peeking down to my list and to make sure that I am not forgetting about anything. I'm a little bit irritated because I'm already almost 40 minutes into the podcast, but I know the German one was I think I was a little more. Well, sometimes when you're scatterbrained, you're a little slower. You don't talk that fast. Maybe that's what did it. I don't know. I feel like I'm faster here. But that's okay. Right? Where was I? I meant to show you all my hand-spun yarns that I also want to turn into fingerless mitts. Again, most of these are dyed by me. And I love making the mitts with hand-spun yarn. And I kind of can eyeball the needle size by now because I've made so many. I figured out the weight and all. 2.9 ounces and about 80 yards. Some of these I felt like I should have more yardage, so I don't know if my math was off. Whatever. 2.9 ounces and 64 yards. Oh, that's more. I think this one was 5 ounces. 5 ounces and only 120 yards. This is more of a rustic yarn. Again, Lincoln Fibers. I think I bought that from a local friend who didn't want it anymore, and I thought it would work for fingerless mitts. And then this one is again almost 3 ounces and 108 yards. Oh, love the color. And then I added a few more, and I kept all these in this pretzel bin thingy. I put also these, which I had spun a while ago. Actually, a long while ago. Ooh. That's always a good project for hand spun. And people like them, and I'm not the crazy person who prices them according to the time of work that went in there, because nobody would want to buy a pair of fingerless mitts for $100, right? You wouldn't, and certainly would I not. Oh, I hope I did not make a noise with my microphone. I have made some more plans for possibly Christmas sweaters. And it's so funny because right now in the German podcasting community, people started using the word a thought UFO, which I love so much because that's what these are. They're thought UFOs or thought whips. I mean, either way would work. But I have two of those. Both of them are sweaters, believe it or not. And one is for my daughter who wears what I make her, but not very frequently. So I'm thinking I may hold off with this one a little bit. This is an all man-made fiber, but super duper soft yarn. I have a sweater's quantity, but I wanted to beef it up just a little bit so I can use a bigger needle and get done really fast. She loves these loosey-goosey sweaters, short cropped, wide sleeves, so she has at least 2, if not 3, that I could use for, I'd probably make up the pattern. So then I thought, what am I going to use? I want to hold it together with another yarn. And then I knew I had cotton on cones. These two, the mint in itself is not quite in that multicolored fluffy stuff, but this yarn almost exactly, just ever so slightly darker on the cotton. Then I thought, well, it's going to be a warm sweater anyways, why not make it really warm and use something woolly? Is that an option? I'm going to try it. And that's what I did. I did my swatch with, I think these are 9mm needles, if not even 10. Didn't write that down. I just tried and played. And here is where I tried out all 3 colors. The light blue held with it, the light blue cotton on the bottom. In the middle, the turquoise-ish, dark turquoise teal colored wool. And up here, the mint colored cotton. Nothing makes too crazy of a difference except for the teal turquoise, where I feel like it adds an extra color that pops out, where she's not a very bright colored. That's just not her style. So I'm thinking I may be pushing it too far if I add another color to already these 4 colors: a mint green, a teal, a muted tealish green, a light blue, and a light orange. Nah. So that's not going to be it, but it was kind of funny because I was talking to my mom. I showed her the swatch and I said, well, I wouldn't mind having a little more of a woolly content because, just so she gets a little bit of warmth. And then while I was talking, I remembered all of a sudden that I had bought some 100% wool yarn in Germany at the flea market that wouldn't fit into my suitcase. And that I thought she was planning on bringing. So I said, would you bring me that yarn? I think that's going to be just the right yarn to hold together with this. It's not the softest yarn, but I'm thinking, with this, then it's just because this is extremely soft, like Angora soft. So that's going to be just perfect. And she said, it's already on the stack of things to bring with other weird food items that she usually has to bring for me, like jelly that her friend makes. Or packaging for potato dumplings. Kartoffelklöße. Yeah, so this is my daughter's thought UFO, or thought whip, almost a whip, right, with a sample that I already made. But now for my son, who seems to be even more knit-worthy than I thought, because the other day I said, you know, you're not going to wash that sweater that I made for you last winter. You bring it to me if it needs to be washed. And he's like, yes, of course. I would never wash it. So I'm like, that sounds good. Maybe he's ready for some real yarn. I think the last one I got a superwash wool nylon blend, more like a 50-50 yarn. But this one, oh, I'm so excited about. So this is what I came up with, and I dyed in my DK base. And I have 2 skeins of each color. And I want to, I should say, make it in color blocks, in 3 blocks, the light, medium, and dark. And the only thing is, I'm not 100% sure. Each one of these has about 250 yards. So I'm at about 1,500 yards, and I have no pattern, so I'm going to make it up. So that'll be fine. But I thought, maybe a little bit more, but none of these colors can be recreated, because I'm telling you, this, to make a gradient set, it's not as easy as it looks. Especially if you want to be able to recreate, I couldn't. I have even dyed up some other skeins where they are too blue or too gray or something. You know, it was a challenge. These, I'm really happy with these. Yeah. But I thought, well, I can't recreate any of these colors, so why not have a stripe in between, also to set them apart a little bit more. And for that, I was so tempted to have a bright lime green. Can you imagine? That would look so pretty, a bright lime green. He wouldn't wear it. He's not that kind of guy. So what I did is I came up with a very dark gray, and I hope the light is still enough for you to see that it has. I couldn't help myself. I had to put in some blue speckles. I get to have a little bit of fun, right? When I knit. I hope you can see those somewhere here. Yeah. Yeah, so I'm really excited about this. As soon as I'm done with the studio tour prep and the fingerless mitts galore, and I will cast this on. In fact, what I'm planning to do is he's going to come this weekend and help clean up the backyard and trim the path, because people should be able to walk to our house without bringing a machete, right? Really, this is so overgrown. So we're going to have to take care of that. And then also, so when he comes, I think I'm going to say, oh, can you bring me the sweater? I'm going to wash it while you're here. And then and then I can take measurements, you know, measure that sweater, because I know it fitted him great. That was the one that I made for him last spring, after he complained on Christmas that he thought he was going to get a handmade sweater, which he did not. I mean, and then I whipped out that other thing. Yeah. So that was that. The last thing I wanted to tell you about is I wanted to show you these guys here. I'm loving this so much. But it's a yarn where I have only one skein per color, and because sometimes it's hard to dye evenly, or you get these light spots where you're like, oh no, this can't stay, and it needs a second go at dyeing. It needs an over dye. And I wanted to tell you that all of these are 8-ounce skeins. I cannot tell you the yardage. I'm so sorry. I should have looked that up. But I mean, look at it. I think I can say this is a super bulky. These are my thoughts now. Of course, it's going to be a little more expensive keeping it in an 8-ounce skein, but yeah, I am really torn because I don't know how much. I just have to knit a hat. I'm thinking I got to see how much do you need for one hat with this yarn. And then my thought was, well, maybe people want to use the rest. I mean, say there's an ounce left over, or almost 2, you can easily put that into a pom-pom, right? The other idea I had was to write up a simple pattern, and this is so easy, for a 2-colored hat, and to make sets where I have this as a main color and have a small skein of this, and then you could also switch it around, make a yellow hat with a little bit of this poppy red or whatever it's called. Yeah. If you have any thoughts on this that hit you right away when you see the yarn, let me know. The yarn is just so awesome, but I could never dye a sweater's quantity of this. It's too hard to dye evenly, you know? The only thing would be block, you know, if you wanted to do color blocking in a sweater. But who needs a super bulky weight sweater? That's the other thing. Let me know your thoughts on this. And now, I think I've really come to the end, and I will say my goodbyes. Again, the reminder, if you are local, come next Saturday to the High Desert Studio Tour. I would love to see you. It's from 10 to 5, and until then, I wish you happy knitting. Bye.